Full text free 1v1 age difference broken mirror reunion redemption cultivation. On the first day of returning to Beiyi, Lin Zhaowan caused herself a big trouble. She treated the model designer hired by the school at a high cost as a pervert. Just as she finished calling the police and used her ballet shoes as a weapon, throwing them at him, she saw several classmates looking at her in shock and respectfully shouting, "Hello, Teacher Chen." That man who ran into China from London 3 times, actually had no other purpose. He slowly bent his knees to help her pick up the dance shoes, patted them clean, and placed them at her feet. "Miss Lin, you were quite cute when you were in London." Lin Zhaowan's face turned red, and the group of classmates listened to a burst of "wow" sounds. Why is this man more familiar, even though he looks like a pervert? Lin Zhaowan was jealous of herself, but she had no idea that she had already pursued her crush. After losing her memory, she struggles with herself every day. Who is Chen Jian's white moonlight? What Lin Zhaowan didn't know was that Chen Jian wanted to switch careers as a writer to express his tumultuous journey. What should I do if my girlfriend is jealous of me every day? I just look sulky, but actually I love her very much. She won't pursue anymore. If she can't, it's okay. Lin Zhaowan, who had lost her memory, did not know that Chen Jian was the grandest dream she had ever had in her youth. She finally approached her dream, but didn't know if she should give up. Chen Jian is panicking now. She finally waited for the late sentence. Lin Zhaowan, as you wish, Chen Jian, have been fighting against you all my life. Keywords of the novel. Fishing beauty cries after memory loss, New Year's big boss no pop-ups, Fishing beauty cries after memory loss, New Year's big boss complete collection download, Fishing beauty cries after memory loss, New Year's big boss latest chapter reading. Chapter 1001. Is it accidental or intentional? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1001. Is it accidental or intentional? If there is someone in the world whose gaze can make Lin Zhaowan's heart palpitate, it is Chen Jian. In the summer of 30 degrees, the temperature inside the car was about 19 degrees, and under Lin Zhaowan's long eyelashes, she felt cramped and uneasy jumping. Her palms were sweating profusely, and the scorching discomfort forced her to lean her head out of the window, causing her to be extremely irritable. Just a few days ago, she had a well-known internal conflict with the person in the driver's seat and called in the police car. If it weren't for not wanting to cause trouble in public today, she would definitely not have gotten into his car. Just as she was staring at the remaining 2 kilometers on the map, hoping to arrive quickly, the person on the left spoke up. He still had a straight waist while driving, with only half a delicate and beautiful profile exposed. His face can be described as beautiful, clean and transparent like the wind, and his features are like exquisitely crafted ceramic artworks, with no dead corners found from every angle. His voice was calm and cold, but it didn't freeze people. It was just an elusive scent, afraid that at any moment, a dangerous wolf would run out of his body and tear people apart. He glanced at her slightly and said, "What are you doing so nervously? Am I very aggressive?" Although there was a solemn aura between his eyebrows, when Lin Zhaowan first met him, she thought he was a graduate student under the age of 25. This youthful feeling blends with his composure, giving him a unique temperament. It doesn't affect Lin Zhaowan's habit of palpitations when he sees her. Lin Zhaowan's face didn't have any ripples, and she politely said, "Teacher Chen has been thinking too much. I just feel that Zhenghai's body is still in the hospital. We should hurry up and get there." He took a deep breath and a low pressure sank into the air. Lin Zhaowan stopped talking. Although she didn't want to be alone with Chen Jian, the thought of it was indeed sad. There was a sudden collision between 2 cars in Suiyan City, and one of the victims was the guidance of Chen Jian, a specially invited mentor at Peking University. The lower floor of Yuda is the parking lot point A of the school. It's too sudden for everyone to discuss this accident, and Chen Jian and a few teachers are also there. Lin Zhaowan was about to go to the hospital to get the medical report when he just came out of Yuta building and wanted to get away from Qinjian, but was loudly reminded by Guanwei, a good sisters, "Zhaowan, aren't you also going to Beijiang Hospital?" She stood still in place, and a few seconds later, Guanwei understood that the gaze at someone who wanted to kill could not be hidden. Qinjian walked over, not caring at all about the past few days, and said, "Lin, let me drop you off on the way. I also want to go." Lin Zhaowan pulled the strap of her bag and was surrounded by so many people that she could only nod and say, "Thank you, Teacher Chen." If we show everyone again that she doesn't give Qinjian a good face, it will appear that she has a petty heart and is a gentleman's belly, making it difficult for Teacher Chen. Guanwei always felt that she didn't particularly like this handsome teacher. Teacher Chen is renowned for his excellence. He is a teacher responsible for guiding design students in the third model competition in Suian City, which was invited by Beiyi at a high cost. He was only in school for half a month and was harassed by many female and even male classmates in various ways, but he remained indifferent and even warned that if similar incidents occurred again, he would be impolite. Lin Zhaowan said he was a pervert, but no one believed him. "I'm going to comfort Zheng's parents. Please wait here for a while, I'll take you back later." Just as she was about to say no, Qinjian walked up to the elevator and quickly followed the crowd into the elevator without giving her a chance to argue. It's a bit annoying, her brother wouldn't even care about her so much. And for some reason, Lin Zhaowan always felt that he gave her a familiar feeling. Although she didn't want to get close to him, she had to admit that his proximity didn't make her dislike him. She quickly shook her head, realizing that the aftermath of the accident 3 months ago had not yet resolved, and that she had developed some strange psychological reaction. Sure enough, if there is a disease, it must be treated, and it cannot be delayed. Lin Zhaowan thought deeply and took a deep breath before walking into the neurology department. Half of the blood clots have dissipated, and there are still some left. Regular checkups are needed. According to the report, your body is in good condition, so don't worry. During this period, do not exercise vigorously, maintain a good mentality, and eat more fruits and vegetables. She wants to know if the blood clot has completely dissipated, can her headache be cured? But the doctor didn't give her a definite answer. Lin Zhaowan waited for Qinjian for half an hour, just as he was about to get off the elevator and find him, the door opened. The sunset slanted down on them from the window of the corridor. They stared at each other for a few seconds. She saw that he was covered in a faint yet extremely beautiful light, and under his crow feather-like eyelashes, the pupils swept by the sunset were tinged with sadness. A person who is too beautiful, even the infinite sadness of the sunset by his side, will be transformed into a long and magnificent beauty under the lens, describing the scene she sees at this moment. Lin Zhaowan suddenly regained consciousness. It must have been the atmosphere of the hospital that caused a misunderstanding that was easy to make people sad. But her heart still pounded violently, her palms freezing cold. "Is your body okay? Do you have any anemia problems?" "Thank you, Teacher Chen. I'm fine." Anemia. She did have some before, but later she improved. She twisted the bottle cap with one hand and a bottle of soda water moistened her throat. At this moment, Qinjian spoke up, "Do you think I'm a pervert?" She almost choked and said, I'm not, don't talk nonsense." Even if she thinks he is, she can't directly admit what he said, can she? "That's good," Qinjian paused and raised his eyebrows. "Otherwise, you need to be prepared for long-term interaction with perverts, which will make you very uncomfortable. I'm afraid you'll be too tired." He walked forward, his footsteps light and cheerful, and his mood was good, while Lin Zhaowan's mind was full of question marks. Why does she have to spend a long time with him? What other tricks does this person want to play? When the two of them arrived at school, it was already 7 p.m. Qinjian originally wanted to invite Lin Zhaowan to dinner, but she directly refused. After all, there was no one next to him, and she didn't have to act with him anymore. Teacher Chen, if I don't treat you like a pervert, first of all, I can't have any abnormal behavior. She took out her meal card from her bag and prepared to go to the cafeteria to buy some sugar-free bread on her own. He raised his eyebrows and nodded. Then what do you think is abnormal behavior? I am all ears and will correct any mistakes. She zipped up her bag and let out a perfunctory hum. Don't make random appointments with female classmates for dinner tonight, otherwise I'll think Teacher Chen has ulterior motives and wants to play with teacher-student relationships. Miss Kellen is not my student, nor am I a university teacher, he replied confidently with one hand in his pocket. She couldn't refute what she said. But Lin Zhaowan still smiled and answered, as a high-quality new youth, I don't want to hang out with men at night. May I ask, can I leave now? He made a please gesture, appearing restrained and polite. Of course, not a problem. Sorry to bother you. Lin Zhaowan silently recited in her heart. What kind of apology? It's best never to see you again. Although Chen Jian didn't do anything to her, he had too many encounters with her, which made her flustered. Does he have a different purpose? Just as she turned around, a luxury car came from a distance and parked gracefully and steadily in front of them. Her broken hair was swept up by the strong wind in front of her forehead, and the owner happily got out of the car and opened his arms. Jian, I'm here to pick you up, isn't it really? I'll strangle you. What the hell is going on? At the moment he saw her, the man was clearly startled and fell back a few steps. Lin Zhaowan frowned. The sky was a bit dark at night, and her clothes were also white, but she didn't look like a ghost, did she? Just as she was puzzled, Chen Jian walked over and flirted with the man, playing some kind of secret signal. After a minute of confusion on his face, his gaze at her slightly calmed down. He turned his head and calmly introduced the person next to him. Lin, this is my good friend, Yu Baoluo, a lawyer from Beijing law firm. Hello lawyer Yu, she replied politely. Chen Jian is a teacher, and she still has to give face, even though the other party still says some strange things. Yu Baoluo's face furrowed and he stared at her incredulously. Zhaowan. Do you really not know me? Have we met before? As both sides were facing off in confusion, Chen Jian spoke out, he's your fan. I just thought I recognized the wrong person. Is it that simple? Why is Chen Jian and the people around him so strange? One is coincidental, and the two are not unexpected. Yu Baoluo anxiously grabbed Chen Jian's hand and whispered something in his ear, his gaze wandering around her with a hint of uncertainty. Chen Jian gave her a deep glance and interrupted, don't mention this beforehand. He sighed. This person seems to be very familiar to Chen Jian, even Yu Baoluo. The more she looked at it, the more headache she felt. In that moment, she came up with a dangerous and bold idea. Can we find the clue to her jumping off the building from this person who deliberately approached her? End of this chapter. Chapter 2002. Worth dealing with the abnormal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2002. Worth dealing with the abnormal. Lin Zhaowan has suspected more than once that when she fell from upstairs, she also lost her memory. 3 months ago, she jumped down from a rented house in Japan. Fortunately, she lives on the 3rd floor, and when she fell, there was still a tree as a cushion to be safe. Her older brother immediately came to see her and instructed her to relax. Her brain was just a few blood clots, and there was no selective amnesia. Indeed, she woke up feeling very relaxed. From childhood to adulthood, her classmates, teachers, family members, and even the tutoring class she attended as a child can clearly remember which street they were on. Apart from headaches, there were no problems, but she was inexplicably uncomfortable. Lin Zhaowan was adopted by the Chu family. She has a big brother named Chu Yushi and an 8-year-old sister named Chu Yuqing in her family. Her parents are busy with work and don't often chat, but the resources they give her are not inferior to those of her siblings. Her older brother takes good care of her, and she doesn't seem to have any reason to suspect that he will deceive her. However, Cheng Cheng asked her a question. That sentence is, "Sister, are you really sure you haven't forgotten anything?" Big Brother immediately came over to interrupt and said, "Your sister needs to rest, don't tease her. Besides, our medical resources are so good, are you still afraid that your sister will forget something?" He looked back at her with a smile and said, "Don't worry, our family won't let your body have any problems." Yes, after all, from childhood to adulthood, whenever she bumped or caught a cold or fever, her parents were like a formidable enemy, even more anxious than ordinary biological parents. She casually turned on the TV, but the news inside was related to her home. Su Qinchun claimed in front of the media that if she goes to prison, it will involve Chu Pharmaceutical. It is not surprising that Su Qinchun, a competitor of her pharmaceutical group, can say such words. Originally, Lin Zhaowan didn't take these words to heart until a few days later when she vaguely felt that what Su Qinchun said might be true. At home, there may really be some big secrets. The next day, Lin Zhaowan went to school and found that the school's public welfare activity day was actually held ahead of schedule. The theme of this public welfare activity is infectious diseases, and the hospital's blood donation vehicle is parked at the school gate, promoting the friendly concept of blood donation and mutual assistance. She paused for a moment and looked up at the banner above, which read, Beiyi branch. She used to go to the hospital where she donated blood, which was also her own hospital. This branch was established by Chu Pharmaceutical Group, with a total investment of 1 billion yuan, and the parents are very concerned about it. She donates blood every year and is familiar with this activity. "Miss Lin, take care of your body." She turned her head and a figure she didn't really want to see rushed towards her again. She rubbed her eyebrows and breathed a sigh of relief. He was right, she needs to calm down in order to get along with this annoying ghost for a long time. "I donate blood for the pleasure of helping others, why don't I cherish my body?" she replied. Since that night, she has not been so resistant to Chen Jian approaching her. Because if in the past he was the only one with a purpose, then now she also has one. He was not angry at all, and even explained to her word by word, "Do you know where the blood you donated went? And do you know that your love has really not been used by criminals? Evil people." She pondered and hinted that it could only be her hospital. But she is also calm. It is common for her to be maligned in business. Maybe he saw the official account of some bad media and believed what bad things her hospital would do. She hugged her chest with both arms and calmly replied, "I believe in our family." Chen Ji paused and changed the topic. "You didn't always think that I had ulterior motives and was a bad person. Why did you take the initiative to tell me about your identity and background now?" Lin Zhaowan shrugged and glanced at him askance. "Teacher Chen always appears next to me. Can you still not investigate my background? I just don't know why you keep getting close to me. Instead of constantly guessing and avoiding, it's better to confront him head-on." However, there are only two types of people who have been close to her. The first type is kidnappers, who have been kidnapped 4 times from childhood to adulthood. The second type is a man who is greedy for her family power and wants to pursue her. Chen Jian doesn't seem interested in women, but of course, men do. Look at him like that, he really meets the standards of sexual indifference. That can't be the first one, can it? Perhaps he is the third type. For now, let's take it as a pervert worth dealing with. Are you cursing me? Chen Jian looked at her with an interesting expression, almost writing his disgust on his face. No one dares, no one dares. She casually waved her hand. After discovering that he was not the clue to investigate the truth on her own, she would definitely not even talk to him. The next second, Chen Jian spoke with a serious attitude that made her spine shiver, as if it wasn't really teasing her. "Miss Lin, don't donate blood casually in the future. You're not afraid. Next time, I want you to donate more than just blood." Without waiting for her to continue questioning, he took out a doctor's business card from his pocket and handed it to her. This doctor was not a doctor from her hospital, but a professor and director at the First Central Hospital of Suiyan City, with great authority. His gaze was heavy, as if there was thick fog, hiding the answer she was looking for. This doctor won't lie to others or hide the patient's physical condition. You can completely trust him. When you're feeling unwell, I'll help you make an appointment to hang up his number. The next second, he said seriously to her, also, the case of Zheng Hai, the police suspect it was intentional murder. Isn't it true that the person who collided with him was drunk driving? 3 years ago, he suffered from depression. Perhaps he had a mental illness when the incident occurred. He didn't want to save face for the Chu family, but he didn't mind the people in front of him. You were adopted by the Chu family, so you don't have a direct blood relationship. If you want to join the country's work in the future, it's best to find an opportunity to separate your household registration and terminate the adoption relationship. What does it mean? What she means is that the death of Zheng Hai's classmate is related to her family. This Chen Jian seems to have a strong opinion towards her family. The suspect once worked under your brother's command. Lin Zhaowan couldn't doubt her elder brother and said, "That's why I suspect my brother. The evidence is not sufficient, right? I respect the judiciary. If my brother really commits a crime or instigates a crime, I will not condone it. But now, I have the right to remain neutral." But she also had no confidence in her heart. After all, it was a human life. Does Chen Jian dare to speak recklessly? After a few seconds of silence, Chen Jian spoke out, "Are you willing to wait with me for the result?" Of course. She clenched her fist, hoping that her elder brother would prove her innocence. Suddenly, Lin Zhaowan looked at him with fiery eyes and said, "Teacher Chen is very concerned about my future being damaged, but why do you care so much about me?" He hesitated for a moment, then looked at her with a gentle and calm gaze. "Although I am not a complete university teacher, I am also half of the teacher invited by Beiyi. I care about my students. Is there any problem?" He knows that it's normal for her not to believe him. Chen Jian remained calm and composed, without pestering her to believe in him or avoiding her gaze. "In short, I won't harm you. I just want to advise you to protect yourself and avoid going to your hospital," he said as soon as he finished speaking. He glanced at her again before turning his back and leaving. Lin Zhaowan stared at his back, and his head began to ache faintly again. What exactly is the origin of Chen Jian? She must investigate these thoroughly. It's just that, what Chen Jian did was clearly something she couldn't like, especially annoying, but she didn't hate him so much in her heart, and even had some inexplicable trust in him. It's simply too cult. She shouldn't be looking for a doctor now, she should be looking for a wizard first to see if she has been drugged. End of this chapter. Chapter 3003. Bring your girlfriend to the cafeteria for a meal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3003. Bring your girlfriend to the cafeteria for a meal. The cafeteria is bustling with people coming and going, with 2 plates on a square table and no one daring to approach the empty seats next to it. Either I feel too hot or the ambiguous sour smell is too strong. Lin Zhaowan bit fiercely with chopsticks, her fetal hair and bangs falling to her temples, and her face blushed like a cherry. What is misleading is that there is an exceptionally handsome man sitting in front of her. This man had some incompatible gossip with her a few days ago, but now they are stuck together every day. Zhaowan was taken away, right? Guanwei wondered, isn't she not fond of Teacher Chen? Why is this girl so shy? Yes. Lin Zhaowan doesn't like Chen Jian. She was so angry that her face turned red, but she couldn't react, which is why she held it back like this. 10 minutes ago, she was invited by Chen Jian to the bustling cafeteria. He said straightforwardly, "As far as I know, your brother has not provided any evidence to prove his innocence at the moment. Not only that, he also urgently called me, warning me not to tell you these things." She wanted to refute, but couldn't find a reason. Especially after she finished talking to her older brother on the phone, He calmly instructed her to study hard at school and not listen to what others were saying. If he is innocent, why call Chen Jian and not directly tell her that this matter has absolutely nothing to do with him? Chen Jian and Lin Zhaowan stared into each other's eyes, clearly in a standoff, but in the eyes of outsiders, it was a sweet couple. The old man who wiped the table gossiped and stared at them for a long time, with a smile in his eyes. "Teacher Chen, why don't you bring your girlfriend to the cafeteria for dinner?" "What?" Lin Zhaowan waved her hands repeatedly and said, "Grandpa, you misunderstood. I'm not his girlfriend." Considering her as Chen Jian's girlfriend, it is estimated that in the master's heart, sows can climb trees and flowers can bloom in the cracks of stones. Lin Zhaowan didn't have time to argue with Chen Jian. After rushing out of the cafeteria, Guan Wei immediately ran over and handed Lin Zhaowan a document bag. She breathed a sigh of relief and finally found something reliable. "Thank you for your hard work." She couldn't wait to open the file bag. This is Chen Jian's personal information, and everything she can currently find is inside. Chen Jian, male, 30 years old, model designer, registered residence, Suiyan City. Her eyebrows were trembling, and her hands were also shaking. Chen Jian has always been an outstanding student in Suiyan City, and during his university years, he also worked as an exchange student abroad for a year. During his school years, he worked while studying. After graduating with a master's degree, he wanted to go from Japan to Germany to work as a model designer. He signed contracts, but suddenly returned to China. She frowned, and Guan Wei beside her blinked and spoke excitedly. Maybe Teacher Chen came back for someone very important back then. With such a career ambition, who would come back for a penalty of 3 million yuan? This girl is so happy. Happiness. I don't know why. She held the stack of information in her hand, and the corners of her mouth were sour for some unknown reason, like biting an unripe grape, so uncomfortable. Someone leaned behind her, wanting to be beaten, and said meaningfully, like teasing a child, "Are you investigating me? Do you need me to show you my household registration book?" Guan Wei uttered a foul word and immediately hid behind Lin Zhaowan. She didn't do anything. Chen Jian was extremely calm, just standing there watching her, and Lin Zhaowan was not afraid that he knew she was doing background checks. The curve of his mouth is about the same as that of the moon, and there is an indescribable fragrance on his body, which smells very comfortable. Lin Zhaowan's heart suddenly quickened and her face blushed so much that it almost exploded. She felt ashamed because she thought the smell on him was pleasant. Chen Jian stopped teasing her and straightened his back, seemingly trying to satisfy her. "You and I will go to a class, and I will tell you what we can't find here," he said. She calmed down and the corner of her mouth trembled. "Do you think I'm stupid?" Did he still follow her when he saw himself investigating him? Chen Jian patiently agreed with a good temper. "If I were lying, would immediately leave school and quit my job as a model designer, becoming a lifelong beggar." She raised her eyebrows and didn't expect him to bet so much. Okay, she's not at a disadvantage either. Even in the university, he can't do anything. Follow him to see what he's up to. Guan Wei shook his head. This little girl is done. She is 21 years old, can she play with Teacher Chen, a 30-year-old man? When the time comes, don't fall in and can't climb out. The lively classroom suddenly quieted down. Lin Zhaowan didn't expect this classroom, which can only accommodate up to 50 people, to have 80 to 90 people, 2/3 of whom are girls. But she remembers that most of the participants in the competition were boys. Chen Jian saw her confusion and explained in a low voice, "I usually don't attend classes here, but I promised the principal to have an additional class every week to teach some basic knowledge to students who are interested in model design. Isn't it? Other teachers are eager for less classes, why is he doing the opposite?" She shook her head and said, "Did your brain not burn out? Or were you infected with the virus during the incubation period?" The two people were so close together, and a group of people below made sounds, as if she had done something beastly to Qinjian. It was like bringing her here to brush off hatred. He tidied up the things on the table and said, "He did me a favor. Take it as it comes." She was not afraid of gossip and calmly started, saying, "What are the benefits?" He approached and whispered, "Confidentiality. No energy." The commotion started again below, and she even heard the sound of tapping the table. Qinjian, this old fox, pulled her to the cafeteria and came to this crowded classroom again, just to use her as a shield to avoid peach blossoms. All right now, she didn't become a public enemy of all the girls in the school because of any school draft, but instead because of a specially hired temporary teacher. She smiled and shook her head. The romance novels she read as a child were indeed fake. Has the romance novel I loved to read in middle school been realized? Her heart suddenly thumped, her chest heaving and twitching, and her fingertips icy cold. She didn't even hear the waves of screams below. Even her older brother didn't know that she would secretly use her pocket money to buy romance novels and read them in middle school. Qinjian indeed knew her, but she couldn't remember who he was. Would he know the reason for her amnesia after jumping off a building? He turned his head and helped the frame of the mirror, saying, "All right, let's start the class. For the first 10 minutes, I'll have a theoretical class first, and then I'll ask my students and Zhaowan to cooperate with me in my practice." Lin Zhaowan understood now, Qinjian is definitely a tough old fox to deal with. I'll make it clear to myself first, so I can wait for her attitude. After class, the last student walked out of the classroom and Qinjian hugged her chest with both hands, saying, "I did have my purpose. I intentionally approached you." His gaze was long and distant. "You know, what should we do next?" Suddenly, Lin Zhaowan lifted her foot with a seemingly splitting motion. In fact, it was a foot pounding against the wall, with a fierce look, in his eyes, like the cuteness of a kitten. He was trapped in the corner of the wall with her long legs, watching her hair brushing in the setting sun, which looked like a movie scene. She likes dancing, probably from the age of 4. Her first split was also in a small corner of the dance studio, on an afternoon after his junior high school break, and it was like this sunset. At that time, he only treated her as a child. She withdrew her legs, but her anger did not dissipate. She pointed out her purpose and said, "Qinjian, if you want to stay by my side so much, then be prepared for me to clean you up." The female student outside the door covered her mouth in surprise, quickly opened her phone, and found the WeChat interface of "Loyal Dog Gold Lord, your little green plum has had an affair. Suiyan First Central Hospital." 15 minutes ago, Lin Zhaowan made an appointment with the head of the hospital's brain department, Su Minghui. She doesn't want to believe anyone's words now, she should believe her own investigation. "Miss Lin, the test results show that you have selective amnesia. Blood clots in the brain are the main cause of amnesia, and I would like to remind you to undergo a comprehensive physical examination at our hospital. In your basic medical examination form, I found some abnormal problems that need to be eliminated. Not only did I find out that I indeed have amnesia, it was also found that there may be problems with the usually healthy body." She closed her eyes and held the report in her hand. Qinjian was her only clue. End of this chapter. Chapter 4004. Amnesia Missed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4004. Amnesia missed its night, with flickering lights and swaying shadows. It's chilly on the long street tonight. Lin Zhaowan just hung up on the phone with his older brother. It seems that he is very anxious because he is involved in a case. After solving his work abroad, he will rush back. Big brother, there must be something wrong. Lin Zhaowan felt that something was wrong with her older brother from the investigation to Qinjian's name. She never told him what this person's name was when he found out about her, but he found out and even told her several times to stay away from him. It seems that Qinjian's appearance is a giant bomb for him. She looked up at the dazzling incandescent light and became increasingly curious. What kind of bomb was Chen Jian? She must get close to him. Just as Lin Zhaowan was lost in thought, a man in black walked slowly towards her with both hands in his pockets. Just 1 meter away from her, the man quickly rushed over and covered her mouth. It was a long-lost fear of being attacked, but Lin Zhaowan quickly recovered. Her older brother taught her self-defense and taekwondo just for emergency preparedness. As she bent her knees and was about to kick towards the fatal position behind her, the person let out a painful cry and let go of their hand. When I turned around, I saw the familiar face reappear. Chen Jian was dressed in a black sportswear that blended into the night, wearing a black duckbill cap. His movements were neat and agile, and he knelt down on the ground. He looked up at her first, confirmed that she was okay, and then lowered his head to scold the person. "Say, what are you going to do?" The person looked around and said, "I just hang out on this street at night, looking at this pretty girl, thinking. Ouch ouch. It hurts." Before he could utter those dirty and filthy words, Chen Jian's eyes flashed with a strong displeasure and anger, and he cursed profusely, making his joints curl up. "Go to the police station and stay." He whispered something in the person's ear. He was startled, but quickly calmed down. So, the person suspected of sexually harassing her was taken to the police car. The bustling long street, which only lasted for a few minutes, suddenly became deserted again. Chen Jian looked at the silent Lin Zhaowan, explaining the reason for encountering him again without blushing or jumping. "Running at night, can't you? Night running." Lin Zhaowan looked at the winding road and looked at Chen Jian like an idiot. "Teacher Chen, you're running here at night. I see your chances of getting hit by a car are not small. If you're lucky, you'll just have amnesia like me. If you're lucky, you'll have to ask Zheng in person who the killer is." When she said amnesia, Chen Jian frowned and said, "Do you know you have amnesia?" "I know." She approached him step by step with a smile on her face. "I also know that Teacher Chen must have known many secrets about my memory loss before. Unfortunately, you don't lack money, otherwise I would have exchanged money with you." Chen Jian took a step back and didn't turn his head. She took the initiative to get so close, and his breathing couldn't help but accelerate. She hasn't been so close to him for too many years. "You're not planning to say it, are you? When the time comes, I will naturally tell you that knowing too much now is not good for you." Before Lin Zhaowan could continue to question him, Chen Jian turned the tables and asked with curved eyebrows and eyes, "Miss Lin, I just saved you. Don't you have anything to thank me for?" "Haha, here comes the invitation for credit." "Okay." She approached Chen Jian step by step, forcing him to the railing of the moat, making him unable to retreat. The arrangement of yellow and white lights on the street makes the night gentle and ambiguous. Bang, bang. Chen Jian's eyes gradually showed an uncontrollable nervousness, his hand unconsciously gripping the railing, but his gaze couldn't bear to leave her. She wanted the truth, but he couldn't let her experience the pain so early. If she blames him one day, he won't blame her either. After all, she jumped off the building because of him, and he owes her too much. Too much. I can't afford to feel guilty in this lifetime. Just as Chen Jian's villain was fighting, Lin Zhaowan just curled her lips and smiled, saying something unimaginable to him. "Teacher Chen, your way of using foul language is quite cool." She suddenly withdrew, and he suddenly lost consciousness. She didn't lie. With her well-dressed and ascetic demeanor, she thought he could only be a serious person, but the contrast in that moment just now made her heart skip a beat, just like she had been looking forward to this scene for a long time. Chen Jian felt a heartfelt sense of guilt, and the feeling she had wanted to stop before falling ran back. He fled to Germany with a crazy heart at the time, but now, this sin is likely to last a lifetime. Lin Zhaowan found a shared bike and rode away, leaving only a panicked figure for him. She didn't even expect her to be so bold just now. What was that feeling of recklessness rushing into her heart? Is it a heartbeat? I wonder when she quietly turned into a pervert. The inexplicable voice in her heart was so lingering and eerie, as if reminding her to go see a doctor. The next day, a flirtatious photo of Chen Jian and Lin Zhaowan by the river was posted on the school confession wall, claiming that everyone's goddess had already taken over. The popularity of the two individuals themselves is not low, and now it's good. Not only is it well known in school, but it's also on gossip news. Chu family's rich boyfriend exposed, looks match. After finishing this gossip, she took a deep breath and put down her phone. It's also good if there are rumors, maybe those internet experts who are comparable to Sherlock Holmes can help her find clues about their past involvement, which is also a way. Guan Wei rushed over and sat next to Lin Zhaowan, gasping for breath. I found out about another matter with Teacher Chen. His parents sold a house in Suiyan City to offset their debts, and they even left some money to allow Teacher Chen to study abroad in college. His parents owe money. She was somewhat surprised. Chen Jianguang's gold medal in a competition is worth at least 3 million yuan. Besides, he is still so capable now. Guan Wei flipped through the notebook in his hand and nodded, yes, Teacher Chen had a tough childhood. When I found out, I was startled. I thought you were the script of the domineering CEO Qiao Qianjin, but I didn't expect it. I didn't expect each one to be worse than the last. Zhaowan's biological parents have been searching for her for so many years without any news, most likely intentionally leaving her behind. During the gap between Guan Wei's sighs, he continued, Mr. Chen's parents are both farmers in Suiyan town. There are 3 sisters on top, and he is a boy. His mother is weak and sickly, and his father is responsible for supporting the family. Later, he was deliberately harassed by a wealthy man, who designed his father to owe him a huge sum of 10 million yuan. Upon hearing this, Lin Zhaowan's eyes inexplicably turned red, and her heart was throbbing with pain. Teacher Chen could only spare no effort in studying and working hard. Later, he finally paid off his debt and took his parents to live in the villa he later bought in Suiyan City, using the best security system to protect his family. TSK, this person doesn't know what kind of grudges he has with Teacher Chen. He's biting and not letting go, he's really not a human. Guan Wei. I beg you to continue helping me investigate. Although I don't know why Zhaowan is so excited, Guan Wei still nodded and agreed. She, who aspires to start a detective agency, is determined to fulfill her mission. End of this chapter. Chapter 5005. Before Total Loss. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5005. Before total loss. As August approaches, wudong trees and cinnamomum campora are swaying on both sides of the campus path, removing the restlessness of summer, and the gentle autumn is slowly approaching. In the peaceful afternoon campus, only 2 people walked towards the direction of the music classroom. Lin Zhaowan has a performance activity in the evening, and I heard that Chen Jian can also play the piano. I want him to help me accompany a piece. She wants to change the music to a piano solo, which would be more suitable for her tonight's theme. Chen Jian, this is for you. Chen Jian turned his head, and it seemed that Lin Zhaowan had stopped rejecting him so much during this period, and her attitude had become much gentler. He looked down and saw a maple leaf in her palm, which had already been made into a leaf vein bookmark. I'm not as skilled as you, I can only make a leaf vein bookmark. She has seen the airplane model he made, which is indescribable and vivid. That small plane was just parked in a corner of the gymnasium, as if soaring in the blue sky, free and magnificent, like a young ambitious eagle, spreading its wings to search for its own blue sky. It's great to have such talents in China. She had stayed in London before and heard many anti-China comments, saying that there were no technical talents in China and that if China was not as good as abroad, she would always feel uncomfortable. In her heart, she has always longed for the country to have various outstanding talents. Even if studying abroad, the purpose is to come back and shine for our country, and better bring glory to our country. So, amidst various voices of disapproval, she still chose to return to her home country. After seeing Chen Jian's works, her prejudice against him gradually began to warm up like spring when the first snow melted. He will understand her, just as she has also begun to understand him. Guan Wei told her that Chen Jian almost went to Germany twice. The second time was in the past 2 years. Lin Zhaowan unconsciously said to herself, "Is it a pity to give up the opportunity to study abroad for whom?" She believes that if Chen Jian goes abroad to study and comes back, his skills will definitely be better. When he returns to China, he will not only be at his current level. "Do you think I'm miserable?" He smiled, no wonder she was so abnormal today. Originally, it was sympathy for him. "You're not the one who won't let me go abroad," he said as he looked at the maple leaf, his mouth curled up and his gaze blurred with an indescribable sourness. "What's so heartbreaking about me?" Yeah, Lin Zhaowan realized later, what's her business? Her gaze flickered left and right, shifting the topic. "Then let's go and show off your piano-playing skills, Teacher Chen." Damn it, is Lin Zhaowan so easy to chase? Why are some people not as good as others after chasing for more than 10 years? The girl was thin and small, hiding behind the two for so long, using a tree as a cover, until she was never noticed. She lowered her head and sent out all the photos. "If you don't come back, there's really no chance. Damn it, wait for me." Zhonggo Jinju sent a panda head emoji with gritted teeth. The girl put on sunglasses and sighed about how there could be such a miserable man in this world. Even though he was weak and sickly, chasing a girl when he grew up was also a difficult fate. He didn't wait to confess his love and was stolen by someone a few days out. Damn it. Chen Jian played a piece of Jay Chou's Sunny Day on the piano, which was very suitable for the theme of this story. Lin Zhaowan bent over and her hand, which was wearing dance shoes, stopped for a second. Her eyelashes trembled for a moment. She seemed to remember someone in her memory who also liked Jay Chou very much, but she couldn't remember who that person was. She took off her small suit jacket and wore a white sheer skirt, gently swaying in the sunlight. His fingertips kept jumping, and every note seemed to be able to speak. There seems to be a heavy rain in the classroom, so heavy that it's hard to see the end of a hazy relationship. The girl dared not want to approach the man she had a crush on, walking from a young age to her 30s. No matter how far she went, she had to ask in her heart, when will she be able to reach that person? Desire, fear, unwillingness, and struggle, the deeper the rings of growth, the more heart-wrenching it is. The dance came to an abrupt end. Lin Zhaowan gasped for breath as she watched beads of sweat fall to the ground. Suddenly, she became afraid and didn't want the same ending as the protagonist. She sat on the table, with purple curtains blown up by the gentle wind. He looked at her sideways, his three-dimensional facial features and bones superior to each other, exuding a cold and bright beauty. When combined with her graceful dance movements, it was difficult not to captivate people. This is the girl who is so captivating. From adulthood until now, she has had a series of suitors, but none of them can move her. Just like, she has been waiting for someone all along when he was losing consciousness, she suddenly spoke up and asked calmly, "Why did you give up the opportunity to go to Germany again?" "Why?" she asked, and he said, as if he had an outlet to vent his emotions. "Because I have a sister, if she needs me to come back, I can only come back. I owe her too much." "Sister? Why didn't she find it?" He explained, "That's my neighbor's sister." She was a bit surprised and said, "What about your future?" He turned his head and said, "The future is not as important as her life. Without her, I would die. But it seems like I made her do something foolish. This is my lifelong guilt." Lin Zhaowan fell silent. So does Chen Jian like that sister, or doesn't she? Her mood suddenly changed for a moment. She couldn't explain what she felt, and it wasn't disappointment, but the pressure was lower than disappointment. She found an excuse and walked out. Chen Jian remained quiet for a long time, his heart surging from the quiet waves. After Lin Zhaowan walked out of the classroom, he played Jay Chou's secret that cannot be sayed. Chen Jian is a jerk. He fell in love with a girl 9 years younger than him. In my memory, the girl hysterically tugged at him, crying bitterly and shouting, "Chen Jian, you're not my brother. I like you, you want me to say a few times that I like you, I'm not a child anymore, don't you understand?" After playing this song, he laughed mockingly and said, "What kind of person am I, Chen Jian? What qualifications do I have to accept your feelings? Lin Zhaowan, I cannot delay your life. Why are you so foolish and want to punish me by jumping off a building?" He took a deep breath, his eyebrows furrowed together, and his heart felt a faint pain. If she knew the whole truth, would she hate him or understand and forgive him? The phone rang. "Chen Jian, I'm back." "Lin Zhaowan, don't think you're moving," he said as he picked it up. He remained calm and composed, with a slightly raised corner of his mouth and a clearly defined hand holding his phone. In a determined tone, he said, "Chu Yushi, I've been waiting for you long ago." The cicadas above her head took her back to a certain summer day, and Lin Zhaowan's skirt fluttered, sinking deep into the vortex of summer, but she didn't know which summer day it was. This feeling of missing something in my heart, is it the loss of never being able to find that peace again, making my heart feel overwhelmed and uncomfortable. Now, the more she knows Chen Jian, the more she believes he is a good person. Even her hand reached out to her chest, and her heart was pounding at the thought of him. Is this feeling called heartbeat? Why does she have a heart attack? Jay Chou placed an order to buy his album last night, and I am even more moved to write the concluding remarks of this chapter. I think Jay Chou's song is a youth that resonates with everyone, taking us back to the past. My memories are seagulls, sunset, Big Ben, noisy streets, warm winds, and the non-mainstream of 2010. You said that gradually letting go of love will lead to further progress. Why change the missed time? Imagine you by your side before being completely lost. Perhaps fate's sign only allows us to meet. I also want to borrow the words of the author in chapter 005 to say to Jian and Zhaowan. Heartbeat, regardless of age, is not shameful as long as we have a sound set of values and the ability to take responsibility for our own choices in adulthood. Is it acceptable to be within 10 years of age difference? The male and female protagonists in this book did not engage in language and behavior before reaching adulthood, and even before the age of 22, the male protagonist was rejecting her, giving her more space to choose for herself. The age difference of meeting at a young age does not mean that they cannot get married in the future. They have not done anything wrong. In the future, we can also see more connotations in this story. Age is not a sin, family of origin is not a sin, illness is not a sin, being subjected to online violence is not a sin, resisting the darkness is not a sin. Any sin should not be an excuse to embellish true sin. We struggle hard to choose our own life, to seek light, to become light, and it is not shameful. In the theme of love, we never imagined who we would meet in this lifetime. In reality, there is only a gap of 9 years, and perhaps it will be separated for a lifetime. This story hopes to give us the courage to pursue our ideal love in reality. For me, the same applies. End of this chapter. Chapter 6006. Sudden Confession. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6006. Sudden Confession. Lin Zhaowan, I like you. 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, a commotion came from below. No one expected that after watching the collaboration stage between Lin Zhaowan and Chen Jian, there would be such a big Easter egg. Song Jiangtong has returned. A minute ago, just as Lin Zhaowan stopped dancing, the lights in the entire gymnasium dimmed, leaving only the faint pink light above her head. Chen Jian was still sitting in a dim corner, familiar with the young man wearing a mint green shirt in front of him. Because Song Jiangtong was once his research subject and also Lin Zhaowan's childhood sweetheart. This person doesn't have any major problems. The biggest problem is that he can't judge people and gets too close to Chu Yushi. Many real estate properties in Beijiang district of Suiyan City belong to the Song family. Beijiang district gathers 90% of the wealthy people in Suiyan City, and their financial resources cannot be underestimated. Lin Zhaowan walked over and whispered, "Song Jiangtong, what are you causing trouble?" Lin Zhaowan didn't expect him to confess, and he was stunned for a long time before he regained his senses. She treats him like a younger brother, and he treats her like a crush. Song Jiangtong was still holding the microphone and his gaze shifted to Chen Jian, suddenly becoming more alert. The words that Brother Chu said to him rang in his mind. He said, "Xiaotong, you know my sister has always liked Chen Jian since she was young. If it weren't for Chen Jian's constant rejection of her as an adult, she wouldn't have been disheartened and jumped out of the building." He also said, "Fortunately, the heavens made her forget about Chen Jian. I don't want my sister to suffer anymore. I hope you seize this opportunity and make the person in her heart become you." He doesn't want to take advantage of others, but he can't tell the truth to Zhaowan either. Chen Jian will not accept her. When she remembers, she will only plunge herself into a vortex of pain. How much she likes Chen Jian, he knew it from high school. At that time, he chose to be a guardian. But he never dreamed that she would jump off the building. "I didn't make a fuss, Zhaowan. I've loved you since I was young. This is my last chance." He made up his mind, his heart pounding fiercely and his mouth curling up. "You can refuse me, but from now on, I won't just be willing to be your good friend. I want to tell you my feelings." There was another scream in the audience. Before Lin Zhaowan could speak again, Song Jiangtong's face suddenly darkened and he walked up to Chen Jian. He had a serious expression on his face and clenched his fist, smashing it onto the expensive piano. "Chen Jian, I advise you to stay away from her. I will protect her and not let you have another chance to hurt her heart," he said. Chen Jian is too lazy to pay attention to him, a young boy. For him, a man's demonstration should be based on his own abilities, rather than relying on his family to show off. If it weren't for the Song family, he wouldn't even have the qualifications to stand here and talk to him. A kid like this who is still wet should exercise his abilities well, rather than meddling in other people's affairs without authorization. I can't even distinguish between good and bad people, and I'm afraid that in the end, it will only lead me into a difficult situation. He lifted his eyes lightly, sat straight in the chair, and replied faintly, "Are you sure she had an accident because of me? Did you hear what she said before jumping off the building?" Chen Jian suddenly regained his senses. "Is it true that she jumped off the building just because she repeatedly rejected her? Even if she loves him again and is stubborn, how could she jump off so easily? Shouldn't it be she also knew something she shouldn't have known? Especially about what he had been investigating. Damn it, he was too impulsive before, why didn't he think of this? I don't care. In short, if God arranges for Zhaowan to forget you, it means you shouldn't be by her side again." Chen Jian, seeing his angry expression, remained calm and calmly sorted out the folds of his suit. He stood up and picked up the microphone on the nearby shelf with his slender fingers. His gaze was quite profound, as if he had declared war on Song Jiangtong to the end, telling him that he would not leave Lin Zhaowan. His commanding aura was unique to mature men. "How old am I? How old are you? Read your book carefully, and when you can graduate smoothly and find a good job, come talk to me again. Otherwise, now, from social status to economic conditions, you have no match for me. What qualifications do you have to let me leave her?" Song Jiangtong's face turned red. He wanted to refute, but had to say that what Chen Jian said was the truth. Without the Song family, he is nothing. He should rely on himself, not on the Song family to make Zhaowan recognize his abilities. He took a deep breath and nodded, "Okay, when I can do it, please leave Lin Zhaowan." Chen Jian didn't panic at all. He nodded like a lazy and noble Persian cat and said, "Okay, I look forward to the day when you can do it." Lin Zhaowan looked at Chen Jian and surprisingly, her heart was inexplicably punctured. "I'll go, mature men are so fragrant. No, what is she thinking? Maturity is maturity, and handsome is also very handsome, but he was still a pervert in her heart before. Lin Zhaowan, you're not a hidden uncle, are you? Coming out of the venue, Chen Jian breathed a sigh of relief and felt an itch behind him. Turning around, as expected, the little tail followed suit again. He said helplessly, why not go find your bamboo horse? She shook her head and said with some excitement, Chen Jian, it seems like I know something else. It seems that she is one step closer to the truth. Although I couldn't hear clearly what Song Jiangtong said to you later, I did hear him say that this was his last chance. Why is this his last chance? Her gaze at Chen Jian clearly avoided her. So, was she right? She approached him and forced him to face her gaze. Chen Jian, did I know you before? Or, did I like you before? Suddenly, a bomb ignited on the battlefield in Chen Jian's heart. With a loud bang, his body immediately froze and he lost consciousness for a few seconds. He knew she was smart and would guess sooner or later, but he didn't expect it to be so fast. He couldn't avoid her gaze and pretended to be calm, but the hand in his pocket had already oozed a cold sweat and said, isn't it important? What people need to grasp is the present, not the past. If you are still young, you will understand in the future. Did you refuse me like this before? He paused for a moment, experiencing too much and forgetting that he was also young. If someone had told him this at the age of 21, he would probably have thought he was a shameless adult. Unexpectedly, he has now become a last resort adult in society. Miss Lin, if you guess wrong, it will be very embarrassing. She tiptoed closer to him and stared at him with a smile, okay. Then let time tell me the answer, tell me, did I guess wrong? Lin Zhaowan looked into his eyes, so deep that it seemed like a sea, capable of causing her to fall and die in an indistinct direction at dawn and dusk. If she had really loved him in the past, would she still fall in love with him this time? And to Chen Jian, who looked at Lin Zhaowan's gaze, he only felt that, he finished, but she got entangled with him again. With her temperament, she probably wouldn't easily let him go even if she lost her memory. He needs to be prepared for long-term combat. End of this chapter. Chapter 7007. What is a secret? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7007. What is a secret? The North First Dance Department organized an outing, saying it was their third year and they wanted to give their classmates a wonderful collective memory. There are only 30 people in the dance department of Beiyi, and there are still 2 people in the class who are taking leave to act. Only a few are willing to participate in this activity. In the end, the counselor pieced together a piece of persuasion, and only 17 are willing to participate. It wasn't until the moment of getting on the bus that the counselor publicly revealed something that the absent student regretted deeply. This time, Teacher Chen and several students from the design department also followed our activity to travel and seek creative inspiration. Please be polite and quiet, and do not upload photos to the internet to avoid causing trouble. Several people on the bus looked at Lin Zhaowan, feeling that Chen Jian was here for her. At this moment, a motorcycle stopped by the bus, and Song Jiangtong anxiously took off his helmet, panting heavily. Fortunately, he found out that Chen Jian was also coming, so he quickly rode his motorcycle and sneaked over. Why is it that as a model teacher, he can come, but as a top student in the law department of Peking University, he cannot come? Song Jiangtong hit the person behind him with his elbow and said, Pangshan, come down and move things. Oh. The classmates behind quickly removed all the drinks and snacks from the motorcycle, and Song Jiangtong ran onto the bus. He smiled brightly and leaned against the door of the bus, observing where Lin Zhaowan was sitting. He didn't consider himself an outsider and said, everyone has worked hard on this outing. I have prepared food and drinks for everyone. Don't be polite. Lin Zhaowan supported his forehead, while Song Jiangtong and she were childhood sweethearts. She best understood his character of never giving up easily once he made up his mind, and he must fight to the end. She used to have a persistent heart to be a lawyer, but she never dreamed that he would split this persistent heart in half with her. But she doesn't need it. Song Jiangtong slipped over to Lin Zhaowan's side and sweetly said, "Hey, I'm here to accompany you." Lin Zhaowan was upset. "Song Jiangtong, I really don't like you." He remained silent for a few seconds before asking, "Do you like Chen Jian?" Soon, his hope was extinguished. Lin Zhaowan hesitated for only 3 seconds before nodding and decisively answering him, "Yes, otherwise I wouldn't have gone out with him that day." "I'm sorry, Chen Jian." Although she can't remember whether she really liked him before, she has no feelings for Song Jiangtong in the past, present, or even future. "I can only use him as a shield for a while, hoping that Song Jiangtong will give up and nip his ideas in the bud as soon as possible. I can be your sister, but definitely not your girlfriend." She let out a deep breath and said, "Think it through for yourself. I don't want to ruin our relationship for so many years. Don't make it difficult for me." Song Jiangtong fell silent, but this time he was truly determined not to give up. If Xiao Wan, who has lost memory, still loves Chen Jian, then he will give up. But he could feel that just now she was just making excuses to avoid him, so he still has a chance. There are only 2 minutes left until the bus departs, and Chen Jian hasn't arrived yet. Lin Zhaowan glanced at each other for a while, and she was a bit worried. Why hasn't Chen Jian come yet? Big brother has already returned these 2 days, shouldn't you talk to him about anything? Her flames flickered in her heart. She had already warned her elder brother not to touch Chen Jian, and the police would naturally investigate the case. If he used his connections to threaten him, she would never forgive such behavior. "No, I still need to make a phone call." She is still not at ease. Just as I was about to call Chen Jian, a figure quickly ran up. Wearing a thin blue shirt and jeans, the man exudes a youthful vibe. "Sorry, I'm late." The girls screamed in low voices, "Teacher Chen is so handsome, he doesn't look like he's 30 at all." Chen Jian came over and casually found a seat to sit down. Song Jiangtong was calculating their distance, but when he didn't have a chance to talk to Zhaowan on the way, Lin Zhaowan stood up. She kicked Song Jiangtong's calf with her toes and said, "Get up." "What?" Lin Zhaowan saw him motionless and dumbfounded, so she forcefully squeezed out and walked straight towards Chen Jian, sitting down. She asked, "Why were you late just now? Didn't my brother come to see you?" The person who was originally in a daze looked sideways at the girl next to him, and he was slightly stunned for a moment, emitting a sense of peace of mind. He gently raised the corner of his mouth and spoke in a gentle voice, "Secret." Cut. Lin Zhaowan couldn't guess the truth from his appearance. Anyway, it's useless for Big Brother to come back. The more he prevents her from approaching Chen Jian, the greater the secret in Chen Jian's body. She needs to protect him well, this is the subconscious and casual answer. Even at this moment, she didn't realize that she had never hesitated to make up her mind to protect him. Chen Jian didn't tell her that just 3 minutes ago, he was almost hit by a Mercedes-Benz, and the person was clearly coming towards him. The person in the driver's seat lowered the car window, and a face that he was not unfamiliar with and extremely disgusted appeared before his eyes, so naked and ungrateful. The symmetrical figure and gentlemanly temperament of a man, as well as the gentle and harmonious facial lines, give the first impression that there is no hostility. He smiled at the corner of his mouth and slowly took off his gray glasses with only frames. He folded his mirror legs and poked his head out. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't see you just now." Chen Jian frowned. Chu Yushi, this old fox, he clearly did it intentionally. This jerk with a human face and animal heart, it was he and his father who designed to make his father owe him a huge sum of money, threatening their family to flee and even causing trouble for his second sister in the company, causing her to lose her high-paying job in Suian City. Chu Yushi vividly portrayed the 4 words, clothing, hats, birds, and beasts, with a beautiful face, but he didn't know how ugly his heart was, but Lin Zhaowan was still kept in his dark. But I have to say to Teacher Chen, if you walk too much at night, it's easy to encounter ghosts. It's better not to take the path you're not allowed to take, the path you shouldn't take. Chen Jian had already seen his methods, and he was too lazy to respond to his boring threats. Is it really related to you for my student's death? If he dares to implicate innocent people again, he will never let him go. I'm wrongly accused, I don't know your student. On the contrary, it was you who deliberately approached my sister, talked nonsense to her, and damaged our sibling relationship. You should reflect on it, right? He said with an innocent look. Oh, he'd better treat her like his own sister. Chen Jian didn't want to waste too much time with him, so he rode his bike and continued forward. And behind him, Chu Yushi's eyes were still fixed on his back, and the smile on his lips gradually drooped. What exactly should Chen Jian, who is haunted by his soul, do to deal with him before he is willing to leave Zhaowan? End of this chapter. Chapter 8008. Outskirts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8008. Outskirts. The dusk hangs low, the mist is hazy and thin, and a faint yellow alternates with a thick, ink-like night, creating a magnificent and peaceful picture of time. At the peak of the moon, sitting on a tree, Lin Zhaowan can see the dazzling lights at the foot of the mountain, the noisy flowing light shining brightly, and the strong contrast with the peak where only cicadas chirp. She looked at Chen Jian, who was setting up a tent, and her mind happened to think of the current feeling. Occasionally having an escape from the city plan seemed like a good idea. Chen Jian, who had set up his tent, looked up and said, "There may be wild animals around here at night. Aren't you really going to live in a treehouse? Isn't it just a mountain pig?" She jumped down from the tree. He glanced at her and said, "Don't underestimate the mountain pig. Its aggression is only slightly worse than yours." What? Is he implying that she is very fierce? Even more terrifying than the beast in his mouth? Song Jiantong watched for a long time before suddenly running over. He threw a pile of firewood at Chen Jian's feet and said, "I didn't bring a lighter, aren't you very skilled? Ignite it." He looked at Chen Jian with a stern expression, determined that he could no longer boast about being an excellent mature man. Chen Jian shook his head. He had never seen such a childish man before, even more childish than the students he taught. He squatted down and picked up 2 stones. After careful observation, the 2 stones were rubbed together with some force. In just a few seconds, Mars emerged. What ignites is fire, and what extinguishes is Song Jiangtong's self-esteem. "I can't tell you know how to do this trick," Lin Zhaowan gave a thumbs up. He stood up, not feeling any difficulty, and said calmly, "I learned it in the village when I was a child. This is an essential skill for our daily life." Song Jiangtong was stabbed in the heart. A few girls whispering next to me, "Teacher Chen is so handsome. Teacher Chen is sure to win." It seems that Chen Jian is his natural enemy, and he has never been able to compete with him since childhood. In contrast to Chen Jian, the former light was so faint that it was 10,000 times smaller than the stars in the sky. Clicking on WeChat, Guan Wei sent him a link from a certain treasure. The Handbook of Mature Men's Cultivation. Guan Wei was still mocking him for not being as good as Chen Jian. He walked over with his phone and began to curse at her. Lin Zhaowan walked over, rolled up his sleeves and squatted down, watching Chen Jian's posture as he was preparing to roast ducks for dinner. She silently helped by the side, learning from him to wrap the whole duck with lotus leaves. He seems to know everything. There is a waterfall next to our hometown. In summer, my friends and I often go there to roast ducks. We use lotus leaves to wrap the ducks, and the roasted ones are very fragrant. Rural life is very interesting. In summer, I watch fireflies all over the mountains, and in winter, I sit on a hot kong and watch snow. The long and brief childhood feels warm when I think about it now. The first time I heard him say so much, there was a gentle and nostalgic look in his eyes, dazzling but not glaring. The feeling of warmth was like the first bite of roasted chestnuts she ate in autumn. Lin Zhaowan bit her lip and handed him the unsightly wrapped lotus leaf duck, feeling a bit embarrassed. That. I didn't look good in my bag. It's okay, you. He almost slipped his tongue and quickly changed his tune. My sister used to be like you, and she didn't know how to make it, but she chose very good roasted sweet potatoes. They were fragrant, soft and sweet. Oh. Always hanging that little sister in my mouth, I'm afraid I don't like her, do I? The broken tree trunk was thrown at his feet, and Chen Jian innocently looked up. He said something wrong. Why did he throw the trunk at her? His temper was inexplicable. This Guanwei is still arguing with Song Jiangtong, and Lin Zhaowan's WeChat has been sent over. Lin Zhaowan. Check Chen Jian's neighbor sister to see if he is suspected of pedophilia. Guanwei. Has this melon progressed to this point? Chen Jian couldn't help but say, you're just a child lover, I'm not that perverted. He has always been a conscientious citizen who is obedient. Little did he know that when she reached adulthood, she suddenly erupted and chased after him fiercely every day, scaring him to the point of having nightmares. He hasn't had a chance to settle accounts with her yet. Chen Jian. Don't look at my phone. He had a black line all over his head and said, who made you stand in the middle of the road? Lin Zhaowan wanted to give him a cold eye. When has Chen Jian evolved to such an shameless point? Is it only her phone that stands in his way? She put away her phone and turned to make way for him. He reminded, in half an hour, the roast duck will be ready to eat. Go and dismantle it yourself. She was annoyed when she saw him now and said, get out of here. Chen Jian raised his hand and surrendered. He didn't know where he had provoked her, so he just stepped aside. Song Jiangtong really doesn't know, it's only been less than a month now. Why are they already so familiar? No, we absolutely cannot give them any further opportunities for development. Lin Zhaowan doesn't know what she's unhappy about. How could she have feelings for who Chen Jian likes? Is she really a little tempted? Is it the past or the present? Her unwavering determination was once again stirring up, it's no use guessing. The most important thing is to quickly find the memories I lost. The wind on the mountain was cool, and the temperature of the pile of wood ash left over from the roasted duck was just right. Chen Jian pulled a small stool and sat next to it, starting to daydream. The environment here is indeed good, with 3 small treehouses a few meters away. Although staying overnight costs 1,000 yuan, it is suitable for tourists who want to come to the mountains for tourism. Just because he just said that there might be a wild beast, it was spread by several classmates. Now there are only 4 or 5 scattered people still on the mountain, and everyone has fled to nearby homestays. Your esteemed son Song Jiangtong, due to his notorious lack of second-generation wealth, was hired by his classmates as a driver to help take everyone down the mountain. It is estimated that he has only reached the foot of the mountain now. Actually, there are usually no wild beasts around here, but he found out that 2 years ago, a family went camping in the mountains and encountered a mountain boar here, which was attacked. So he spent $1,000 on peace of mind, but unfortunately some people didn't appreciate it. At this moment, Lin Zhaowan suddenly ran over and said, I searched on Baidu, but the mountain pig can't climb trees. You go live in a treehouse. Chen Jian couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that his words really scared many children living in the city. Just as he was about to continue scaring her and make her obediently move into the treehouse, a rustling sound came from afar. I thought it was just the wind, but when the low chirping of animals came clearly in their ears, they realized that something was not going well. Lin Zhaowan's goosebumps have all gone up. It seems like it's not the sound of a mountain boar. Should it be a wild wolf or a cheetah? In the dark night, a pair of shining eyes were staring straight at them not far away. She swallowed her saliva and took the hand of the person next to her, her voice trembling as she said, "Chen Jian, run quickly now." End of this chapter. Chapter 9009. Where did the wild wolf come from? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9009. Where did the wild wolf come from? The small treehouse was crowded with two people, and the fierce wolf under the treehouse was staring at them intently, clearly in a predatory state. How could there be wolves here? Fortunately, wolves cannot climb trees, otherwise they would be finished. Just as Lin Zhaowan's legs were trembling with nervousness, Chen Jian lightly tapped her shoulder with his arm and said, "Do you still know how to climb trees?" Lin Zhaowan's mouth twitched and she said, "Big brother, are you still in the mood to joke? He has a really good mentality." Chen Jian was quite nervous just now, but seeing her climbing up in a hurry without even seeing the ladder, she was quite cute. How many years ago was the last time I saw her climb a tree? At that time, she was a sincere and lovely child, calling him Brother Jian, and they didn't even understand what love was. I only know that he should protect the innocence and life of this girl. He allowed her to mess around with him, smearing dirt all over his face. She smiled so clearly that the corners of her mouth were twisted, and her laughter spread throughout the world. The scorching autumn wind blows by, and the golden rice fields and a whole fire cloud are delightful and intoxicating, as if it can make people forget all their troubles. She sat on the tree, while he sat in the middle of the rice field, drawing with a pen. At that time, he drew an airplane. But he never dreamed that he would fly back and forth to China time and time again, struggling to the point of exhaustion for their feelings, future, and lives, yet willingly. He looked at the enlarged version of his face, and the smile at the corner of his mouth unconsciously turned upwards. Growing up, time flies. The girl he has been protecting has grown so big. The man not far away is squatting in the grass, whispering to the person next to the phone to report the situation in front of him. "Don't worry, I'm a trained wolf and won't bite that woman. But she's stuck with that man, I can't guarantee she won't accidentally hurt her." He hung up the phone and continued to observe. Lin Zhaowan suddenly became curious and yawned while asking, "Chen Jian, did I know how to climb trees before? Or did you teach me?" She probed him so clearly, and thought he was foolish. Chen Jian replied expressionlessly, I taught you. I've known you 800 times in your dream, okay? She really wants to punch him and kick him down to feed the wolf. She secretly glanced at him, then saw that the sky was dark and thought of the dark effect. In the field of psychology, there is a concept called the dark effect. It refers to a situation where people tend to lower their guard in dimly lit areas, resulting in a sense of closeness and security towards another person around them. But now there's a wolf under my feet, can it be useful? Give it a try. She yawned twice, trying to brew drowsiness and relax her body. I've been looking for my parents all along, and I don't know why they don't want me. It seems like I just want to get an abandoned answer. As she spoke, she actually felt increasingly drowsy and secure. Is this move really useful? After meeting you, I found that my life was really good. If I were born into a family that wasn't wealthy and my parents didn't love me yet, would I still have my current life and achievements? You are really excellent. If the person I used to love was you, I would have a good eye. Her head suddenly leaned against his shoulder, her eyes opened and closed, and she muttered in a daze, Chen Jian, thank you no matter what. I've been thinking a lot, I won't find my biological parents anymore. If God wants me to be confused, I won't find clarity. When the boat reaches the bridge, it will naturally straighten out. Are you right? Can he still remain indifferent like this? As expected, Chen Jian did not push her away. The next second, something even more unexpected happened to her. She began to have a tendency to fall back, and Chen Jian instinctively jumped and reached out to grab her waist. Lin Zhaowan didn't open her eyes. Although her heart was beating wildly, her body's reaction was to feel attached to this feeling. A voice deep in her heart told her. Don't open your eyes, he won't let go of his hand. Chen Jian felt really foolish. They were on the treehouse, and behind her was a soft blanket. He sighed and looked at the sleeping person, his eyes tingling with tenderness. He slowly placed her head on the pillow and lifted the blanket to help her cover it. He has the answer about her biological parents. But he can't tell her. Her biological parents didn't want her back then. If it were just for the Chu family, there would be nothing worth a 10-year-old child's suspicion. But he heard their transaction with his own ears back then. Her parents left their child in a trash can near Beijiang Hospital, waiting for the Chu family to come and take it away. The Chu family gave them a surprising amount of money, which was 1 billion yuan. Spending 1 billion yuan to buy a child from a rural family, what value does this child have for them? When they were trading, a cat called out and was seen by the Chu family. At that time, he ran away. I thought it was nothing, but when Lin Zhaowan grew up, they met by accident and the Chu family recognized him. From then on, the people of the Chu family have been looking for him and his family's troubles. They warned him not to speak recklessly, otherwise his whole family would die hard. The young man's heart planted a trembling thorn, and later the Chu family frequently threatened and made him unable to sleep well all night, suffering from a neurasthenic disease. The unfairness faced by his Chu family, who excessively harassed and disturbed him, and educated him from childhood to adulthood about his simple and kind parents, as well as the unreasonable threats from the Chu family, made him dare not completely let go of this matter and can only look for opportunities to investigate. He thought that the Chu family would use Lin Zhaowan as a medical experimental subject and engage in illegal activities. But she has been fine for so many years, but the Chu family's abnormal behavior indicates that there is definitely something strange behind it. Just as he was thinking about how to protect her and find the ultimate goal of the Chu family adopting her, he heard a boy cursing. "Firefighter brother, this is the person who is playing with wild wolves here." With a gunshot, Chen Jian watched as the wolf fell, unsure if it was anesthesia or bullets being shot. Song Jiangtong angrily kicked the man and said, "You can be a person. You let go of wolves in the wilderness, why haven't tigers come to bite you?" Just now when he came back and saw this scene, he was scared to death. Zhaowan and Chen Jian were hooked up on the treehouse, sleeping together. Maybe they have developed a lot of feelings. He suspected that the person who released the wolf was hired by Chen Jian. He sent a few classmates away, and also sent his love further away. This wild dog that litters wolves is infuriating him. But Chen Jian only felt that a certain part of his body suddenly became heavy, and there seemed to be an extra hand trembling at the base of his thigh. It turned out that Lin Zhaowan, who was startled by the gunshot, was tightly holding onto his thigh. He took a deep breath and patted the delicate, scallion white hand, saying, "Lin Zhaowan, spread your hand out for me." End of this chapter. Chapter 10:010. Concerns. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10:010. Concerns. The wolf was taken away and the night calmed down. Song Jiangtong angrily glanced at Chen Jian and walked straight to his side. He came straight to the point and asked in an unfriendly tone, "Did you ask someone to release the wolf?" "No, it's not." Chen Jian yawned and said, "I'm going to sleep. Goodbye." He was too lazy to argue with Song Jiangtong, so he casually left. He caught a glimpse of the person on the treehouse from the corner of his eye. She leaned out half of her head to look at him, her gaze fixed on him. Tonight, the two seem to be getting closer together. Is this good or not? And how much time does he have to stay at this university to accompany her? With so many crises around her, he couldn't leave with peace of mind. After she jumped off the building, he couldn't let go of his whole heart and searched for her everywhere. Finally, he saw her in London. But apart from not knowing him, everything was fine with her. Song Jiangtong, if he had the ability to protect Zhaowan, he would be willing to back down. Unfortunately, he was destined to continue hiding everything and stay by her side. The third model competition in Suian City is being prepared in full swing, and this competition will be held in the autumn. A total of 6 outstanding students were selected from Beiyi University, but due to the death of Zheng Hai, only 5 contestants remained. Zheng Hai is the most likely candidate to win the championship. He is gone, and now Beiyi is also empty, feeling uncertain. The principal was so worried that even the wrinkles on his face couldn't come down. He intended to use this competition to promote the school and prepare for the Most Beautiful University campaign. He also wanted to win the top 3 spots and even invited Chen Jian, but he didn't expect in the principal's office, Chen Jian is drinking tea brewed by the principal. The next second, the door rang with a thud. "Principal, long time no see." Chen Jian's eyebrows furrowed, and Chu Yushi met him, waving his hands in extreme disrespect, probably with some malicious intent. "Yesterday, there was very bad news from the police station. The person who collided with Zheng Hai has pleaded guilty and the evidence of the crime is conclusive. No further clues related to Chu Yushi can be found. This case is likely to be concluded like this." The man's voice was full of cunning and smoothness, slowly indicating his purpose. "Principal, everyone knows that competition comes second, friendship comes first. Chu Yushi put down the valuable gift in his hand and handed over a cigar, saying, "My friend's son is also going to participate in this competition. He came specifically from England to play in China. I have to talk to his father about my next cooperation plan, and I am also in a dilemma. Is it for him to win or for the students in my sister's school to win?" The principal sighed and started smoking the cigar, without speaking for a long time. He shuttled through his hands, which had been struggling at the grassroots level for many years and had already been weathered by wind and frost. In just a minute, he was relieved. This is a game for the rich, and with just one mouth, the best resources will be delivered to them. The so-called effort is just the only way for poor children to comfort themselves, but they still cannot receive the honor that belongs to them. This is life. Although the principal felt sad in his heart, he still smiled and politely said to Chu Yushi, "I understand what you mean. Even if your friend's son wins, everyone is still friends." After the principal walked out, Chen Jian finally couldn't resist. He blocked Chu Yushi's way out, his calm gaze adding a hint of disgust. Chu Yushi spread out his hand and said, "Chen Jian, I didn't hit the person. Besides, even if I sent someone to tamper, what would happen? You haven't learned enough lessons yet." He tugged at his collar, his mouth curled up, and he looked like a scumbag with a beastly appearance. "Even when your father was easily framed by me and he was in debt, and your sister was studying hard in the cold, but because of my words, high-paying jobs could be gone. You should know that killing you like us is like killing an ant. No matter how much we do, we will only let the people around you die one by one because of you." Chu Yushi's haughty and abusive demeanor dyed Chen Jian's pupils crimson, and his hand condensed into a fist, covering Chu Yushi's face. He controlled his strength very well, leaving no trace, otherwise he probably would have called the police to arrest him. Chu Yushi let out a painful cry and wiped the corner of his mouth. "Is hitting me useful? Can it change the truth? If you have the ability, you can bring down the Chu family. Unfortunately, you don't have this ability alone." He warned again, "Leave my sister and go abroad now. I can still let you go." He turned around and left, while Chen Jian sat on the sofa, head down and not speaking. He cannot let the Chinese people's competition lose to a foreigner who takes the back door, absolutely not. The Chu family has been tormenting him for so many years, almost using illegal means to kill him. The secret behind Lin Zhaowan is definitely not small, perhaps it may be the key to causing the entire Chu family to fall. In the cafeteria, Guan Wei held on to 2 big chicken legs and nibbled on them. She looked at Lin Zhaowan, who had no intention of eating, and began gossiping, "Your teacher Chen spends every day studying models in the classroom. I see that Zhang Fuchen and his team have been frowning every day lately, probably because of devil training. What is her teacher Chen? Lin Zhaowan noticed that she has been getting more and more fond of talking nonsense lately. However, since her older brother returned, the days around her seemed to have become increasingly unsettled. She also felt that her older brother was strange. Last time I told her that Chen Jian spoke rudely and even started hitting him. It was his kindness not to argue with him, and it was not easy to see him. But although Chen Jian occasionally doesn't spare his mouth a bit, he shouldn't have bothered him for nothing, right? At that time, she replied to her older brother with half a doubt, really? You didn't provoke him, did you? Don't bully him. Unexpectedly, the older brother replied to her, do you want to get married? Do you want me to introduce you to someone? No, she should go see Chen Jian instead. I don't know if Big Brother will make things difficult for him. Although her elder brother treated her well, she had also seen his methods in the business world. His friends all looked like the black and white impermanence of the underworld. If he really had any objections to Chen Jian, he might have 3 broken ribs. No way. Go now. Guan Wei watched as Lin Zhaowan rushed out of the cafeteria in a hurry, waving his big chicken legs and saying, do you want to bring some for your teacher Chen? He definitely didn't eat it. The principal deliberately vacated a large vacant room for Chen Jian to use as a classroom. During the day, there was light in the classroom and he didn't feel any problem. When Lin Zhao came over in the evening, he only felt a strong sense of yin energy. She walked straight behind Chen Jian, who was focused on his work and didn't notice anyone coming. It wasn't until she placed the plastic bag on the table that his reaction startled her. Chen Jian stood up and saw the cold and solemn glint in his eyes through the light. His whole aura oppressed her greatly, as if afraid of someone approaching him. Seeing her, he breathed a sigh of relief and said, why did she suddenly come? She took a deep breath and pointed to the bag on the table, saying, eat, otherwise you'll starve to death. End of this chapter.